Hi, welcome to Office Hour. This is Mrs. Aladros.
Alright, so we're back again with a different video. The last video was we learned about how to add and subtract with significant figures. In this video, we're going to learn how to multiply and divide. So there's different rules for adding and subtracting, and there's another set of rules for multiplying and dividing with significant figures. So same thing as the last video, we're going to follow these 3 simple steps. They're different steps, just a tiny bit different. So we're going to start with this first problem. Step 1, it says to calculate the problem and write out the answer. So I'm going to take out my calculator again, because we're not trying to make our lives difficult. And I get this number for my answer. Now I'm going to move on to step 2. Step 2 says to identify which number has the fewer significant figures. So I'm going to take a look at these 2 numbers right here. My first number, 50.8, has 3 significant figures, and my second number has 1 significant figures. So I'm going to keep a note because I want the one with the less significant figure, and that would be my 300. Now, if you forgot how to count significant figures, then you should revisit my other video on what is significant figures and go from there. Alright, so back to this one. So we're going to move on to step 3. In your answer, you're going to count that many spaces from the first non-zero number on the left side and round there. So from the left side, this is my first non-zero number. So I know I'm going to have 1 significant figure. That means I pretty much round from here. So I think there's like an invisible line in between the 1 and the 5, because that's where I'm going to round. So I know this number is where I'm rounding, so I need to take a look at the one behind it. So the number that's behind the 1 is a 5. So since it's 5 or greater, that means we're going to be rounding this to 2, the 1 to a 2. And every other number after that would just be zeros. So this way, my answer, see right here, it has 1 sig fig, just like my number with the least number of sig figs. So that was the goal, to make it the same number of significant figures as the number with the fewer significant figures. And that's what I did. So another way you can think about it is we have, 15,240 here, and I know I can only have 1 sig fig because I have to have my answer match the number that has the fewer sig fig. So I know I have to keep this first number right here. The first number has to be significant because I want my answer to be as close to 15,240 as possible. So I want it to be as close as possible, but it can only have 1 sig fig. So that means this first number is going to remain there. So it's not going to be 10,000 because this 15 right here is like already past the halfway point. So that means it's going to be 20,000 because we're already past the halfway point between the 10,000 and the 20,000. So it's obviously closer to the 20,000. Alright, so let's move on to problem number 2. So we're going to calculate the problem and write out the answer again. So I have 5 times 13, and I get 65. And step 2, we're going to identify which number has the fewer significant figure. So I have a 5 here that has 1 sig fig, and I have my 13 here that has 2 sig fig. So this I'm going to go with my 5 because it has the lower number of significant figures. I'm going to highlight that. And that means my answer should also have 1 sig fig. So step 3, in your answer, count that many places from the first non-zero number on the left side and round there. So my answer is right here. I'm going to start counting from the left side again, and I'm going to count 1 sig fig, one number over. So 1 number over is right here. So that means I'm going to round right here. And since this is a 5, that means my 65 will be rounding up to a 70. And notice how my 70 has 1 sig fig, just like my number with the fewer significant figures. So that means I did it correctly. Yeah, so that's how you can check your answer to make sure you're doing correctly, because these two things right here, the number of sig figs should match. Okay, let's do 2 more problems. Okay, again, step 1, calculate the problem and write out the answer. So I have 2.2 divided by 0.2, and I get 11. Step 2, we're going to identify which number has the fewer significant figures. This one has 2, this one has 1, so that means we're going to go with the 1 sig fig. Now highlight it, and that means my answer should also have 1 sig fig. But let's follow our step 3. Let's say in your answer, count that many places from the first non-zero number on the left side and round there. So again, we're going to go from the left side. I'm going to count 1 number over because this one has 1 sig fig, so we're going to count 1 number over. And then we're going to see, okay, do we round up or does the number stay the same? Now, since this back number is a 1 and it's not 5 or greater, that means it stays the same because we do not need to round up. And it should make sense because this 11 is closer to 10 than it is 20. And I know I got the right answer because, again, in my answer, 10, it has 1 sig fig, which is the same as the problem, my 2 numbers from the problem, and it has the same number of sig figs as the one that has the fewer significant figures. I'm gonna underline that so you can see. Okay, moving on to the last problem. We're going to calculate the problem again. 240 divided by 8. We're going to get 30. And let's see, this one has 2 significant figures. This one also has 2 significant figures. Notice how my answer right now only has 1 significant figure. So, what can we do to make it so it has 2 significant figures? Well, that's easy. We can just add a decimal, and that will make this the trailing 0 significant. And now it will have 2 significant figure, just like these 2 numbers here. So I'm just making the significant figure match. So this one has 2 sig fig. Right, and this one also has 2 sig fig. So both of these have the same amount of significant figure, so I don't need to pick which one has the fewer because they're the same. And my answer should also have that many amount of sig figs. So this 30 with the decimal makes it so it's good to go, and I'm all set. Yep, so that's about it. And yeah.